Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby, and I am here with L. Morgan Lee, newly minted Tony nominee from A Strange Loop. Congrats. It's not only your Broadway debut, but you've earned a Tony nomination for your Broadway debut, which is quite an accomplishment. What did it feel like that morning to hear your name called?
I feel like I might have like gone blank for a moment. And I keep saying I think that my neighbors thought that someone might be like attacking me because I just kept screaming and screaming and crying and like it was a whole like soap opera in my bedroom. Because I told myself that I was like, I'm not gonna watch this thing, like I'm not gonna watch these nominations because all that stuff is just gonna get me in my head and get me in a space that I should not be in. I just want to be able to celebrate the day. And like, so I made that vow to myself the night before, but I could not sleep. And then I woke up at like 8:15 ish and like had people that were texting me being like, no matter what happens today, you're doing great work, or no matter what happens today, I see you and I see all the stuff you've been doing. And so like really sweet texts were being sent. And I was like, God, that make them in that now I have to watch this thing to figure out what happens. So I like discreetly put my cell phone like next to me on a pillow so that I was like still quasi chill hanging out, but like I could still listen and see it. And then as soon as like the L popped up in the category, I lost it. I
Well,
lost
it's, I mean, it must feel amazing. I can only imagine. And there, you with this nomination, you have become the first openly transgender person to be nominated for a Tony Award, what do you feel when you hear that statistic rattled off?
I feel I don't know what to feel, to be honest with you, because I literally am just trying to put one foot in front of the other. And like like I've been at this for quite some time. So for the work to be recognized is really touching and moving. And I will say I'm finally a week later starting to like believe it. Because it took me this long. I kept feeling like, okay, so this is a dream that I'm gonna wake up from, and it's gonna be like a really cruel situation that happened where I had this moment where I felt like all these things happened, and then I wake up and it's like actually 8:55 on the day of the nominations. But that is not what happened, thank God. So I finally believe it is the biggest thing. And then in terms of like the like transness of it all, yeah, I don't know what to feel. I feel like it's important. I feel like it is an opportunity for people like me, for people who know people like me, for people who are not like me. It's an opportunity for everyone to see that there are indeed trans people in the business, and the ones who are, I think what's most important to me is that the ones who are sort of being told, in particular in school comes to my mind, when you are a student and you know what you are drawn to, you know what material connects you know what material your spirit connects to. And the teachers around you might be saying you shouldn't be singing that, or you shouldn't be doing that, or that's not the right rep for you, or you'll never work if you try to do that. It's a moment where I feel like sort of an FU to those people, right? Quite frankly, it's like, no, if this material speaks to you, you keep pursuing it. If this scene work is something that feels authentic to you, you keep studying it. Mind you, you keep studying, you keep preparing, you keep building the skill sets that you need to build, but you do the work that speaks to you because you are the only one that's going to know. Oh God. Okay.
The spirits are moving right now.
They're like, yes, you do the work. But they're like, but you continue striving and pushing towards doing the kind of work that you know that you should be doing. No matter who says that you shouldn't. No matter like don't like I mean I hate to say it, but like don't listen to them. Like keep pushing forward on what you know is best. Listen to the people that are willing to see you. listen and take notice of the people who do see you and do want to like invest in your development.
Right.
And that's not to say that I'm saying like don't listen to your teachers, they don't know what they're talking about. It's more a matter of if your teacher does not understand you, then how can they truly teach you?
Mm, very
So
much.
it's like it's a moment where I mean this is one human, one woman, one nomination out of 75 years of Tonys. So I hope that it is a big step in the right direction. I don't expect for this nomination has now shifted the world and we are all, it's like that ain't the case. But I do think that like it's a really cool step, kind of a nudge in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have been with this show, I think, since the original workshop, which is a long time to spend with a production and a character. And I'm curious, what's sort of the biggest way you feel like your portrayal has evolved over all that time?
Hmm. Well, it's interesting. One of the things that sort of made me the most comfortable in A Strange Loop was that I never had to be anything but myself. Um, and I was given material, in particular, the sympathetic ear, the patron. I had her from the beginning. And to me, that was like getting a chance to play this. I kept calling it like the leading lady moment in the middle of the show, where because it felt like a very like Carolee Carmelo appears in a beautiful suit and has a moment, and so I always sort of I used to call this was like I would say this is my Carolee Carmelo moment, and I got to do that without having to explain to people why, or without having to like um, without having people question why I was singing that kind of rap or why I was doing it in this key or why was this scene work. It was an opportunity for me to simply be. And at that point, it was before I'd become public about being trans. So it was an opportunity to get to be and not have to explain anything and could kind of still kind of sit in my little corner and kind of hide away a bit while I was figuring out what the heck was going on in my heart and my spirit. And so as I transitioned through the development of the show in a lot of ways, every time we came back to another reading, I was like in a slightly like different spot. What happened is I became more and more comfortable um, with myself, and so in turn with the storytelling. And I mean, there was a period during it when, as I was transitioning, there was a period when I pulled away from the piece and actually, I sent a note that I wanted to step away from the piece and sort of leave that space for the right person to tell it, because I felt like the story itself was not mine to tell anymore, and I love the piece and I love the message behind it, but I was like, if this piece is meant to be one thing, my transitioning has changed what that thing is now. And so I don't want to take the place of someone who needs to be telling this story. I will be in the front row cheering you on and celebrating this story because I think it's important. And I will hate to leave, my patron goodbye, but I need to step into my own truth and into my own narrative, and that might not be to tell this story. And it was really lovely to then sort of be met with, no, we've been talking about you behind your back, and we think that you're coming into your own and being honest about yourself and leaning into your truth helps us in so many ways and helps us to grow and helps us to also ask ourselves questions, and it challenges sort of what we've been thinking about, how the story was being told, and it also extends the reach of the show and then includes more people that can feel seen or heard in this story. And so we had a conversation and it became more of like, we are interested in you, not necessarily, it's not about casting, this is about you. And I was a wreck, of course, because that's not what you expect to hear from creators in new projects. And usually they're like, okay, really great work, best of luck. But that was not how this turned out. And so as we move forward, it's like every time we've done an incarnation of the show, my own lens has slightly been a little different, because the reality is, I mean, we are constantly evolving as people. And when you are a trans person, in particular, when you are on one side of the binary or another, so the longer you're in your skin, the more comfortable you become in your skin, the more your lens is going to shift and evolve and grow. And so I see this piece as a Black woman now in many ways that I did not in the very beginning of all of this. So that has certainly had an impact on how I view the material, how I view the story, my connection to elements of the story and to Usher. It's interesting because sort of as I've transitioned, I've really moved farther and farther away from the the nucleus of what this story is about. I've moved farther and farther away from that experience in so many ways that I really do feel like oftentimes on the outside of the story, but isn't that what this story is about? People who are othered and people who are sort of fighting to find themselves in a world that tells them that they shouldn't belong.
Wow. And I should say, for anyone watching at home who hasn't yet seen it, you do play one of the thoughts in Usher's head, and all of you playing the thoughts really embody a bunch of different people and ideas. So would you say it seems like there was a lot of space to sort of create your own being there, to put pieces of yourself into it? Is that accurate? Was it a pretty open process in terms of creating that?
I think so. I mean, I think we definitely had agency throughout. I mean, Michael has very sort of, he built the different characters that each of us plays sort of, they all have their own lane. I mean, there is a character in the show that could not be more far away from who I am as a human, that even now, every night, I feel a little bit like, I really hope I'm really trying to stay as grounded as I can in this moment, but like this lady's all over the place. And that would be a character who's known as Rafiki, who is Usher's brother's baby's mother. And she is directly after. I literally leave Sympathetic Ear, this like grounded, this lovely woman from Florida, and run off stage, run around the stage, and literally change everything I have on. And I'm now just like Satan incarnate in some ways. She is like a bull in a china shop. So it's cool because it does give me a chance. One of my friends saw the show recently and he was like, "Oh, Morgan, what's crazy about this is I know versions of you sort of in what you do, but this show, there are so many different, you're giving so many different colors and different kinds of people from each scene to each scene that it's like, you have to feel like you're stretching like crazy in the show, because from scene to scene, we are having to kind of shift and become other humans. And then there is our sort of base thought space, which is sort of like the neutral for the tracks. The neutral is still a character though. Like the neutral is still like my neutral is the, supervisor of Usher's sexual ambivalence. So there is still a little bit of a saunter about her that is natural to me a little bit, but I think I can lean into it more because I'm afraid to do that in my everyday life, I think. So with this thought, I can lean into this sort of slightly more vampy version of myself.
I really appreciate the Sympathetic Ear character, because not only do you get to deliver some of the only empathetic messaging to Usher, as I think anyone who has worked in theater, I've done acting, front of house, box office. I was like, I know this woman. I don't know if did you pull from any specific encounters or any specific people to play her?
No, it's I mean, quite frankly, I'm thinking of Diane Carroll half the time when I think, which is like not even Sympathetic Ear in any way, but there's an essence to Diane Carroll that I hope to one day attain. No, but I hope to. She colors a lot of Sympathetic Ear for me. There's like there's a grace about her that I think that Sympathetic Ear has on her, in just the way that she carries herself and what she's doing. But like also what's cool about Sympathetic Ear is that through the development of the project, there were so many different versions of Sympathetic Ear. And it gradually sort of turned into what it is now. But I've in some way kept all of those like all of the drafts that sort of led up to who she is today, I've kept inside. So like there's a whole other story about this lady and like the things that she watches and does. And you know, there was a moment where she was discussing sort of adult photographs of a young man on a TV show that she found very attractive. And like, you don't think of this like older woman being sexualized, but like in this show, in A Strange Loop, in Usher's imagination, this older woman had a line that was like, "The moistness never goes away." And to me, that was like, I will say I've held on to some of that in sort of who she is. But yeah, I have actually never dealt with a sympathetic ear personally.
They're out there. I promise you they're out there.
Oh, I'm sure. People seem to connect to her, so I'm sure. She's human though.
Yeah, she is.
And she is like, what I connect to is that she looked in the mirror and realizes that she actually didn't go after the things that she wanted to do. She had dreams that she never fulfilled. And so she comes to the theater every year to see this like fantasy world that she can get lost in. And like, that's the thing that she holds on to all year long. So there's this, when she's telling him to like find joy in your life while you're still here, it's because she didn't. And she doesn't want someone else to have to regret the life that they didn't live when they could have been more proactive about it. So for me for the universe to put that in my hands before transition, before any, like, I think it's real crazy and like it's real like loopy doopy that like I am reminding myself oftentimes every night that like, it's okay to lean into yourself and it's okay to like dream the biggest dreams. And it's okay to do the things that people don't think are possible. It's okay to dream bigger than anybody imagines. And so that I get to tell Usher that every night in a show where people are constantly sort of trashing him is special. I feel good about it. And again, I'm constantly reminding myself that as well as I'm saying it.
Yeah. Well, it is very special. And this moment is special. So I want to ask before we have to finish up, as this moment is sinking in, that you are a Tony nominee and a Tony nominee in the same category as Patti LuPone, which is great. What are you most looking forward to for the Tony ceremony? Is there something that is really getting you excited?
When growing up watching awards shows, one of the things that always stuck in my mind is like when the category comes up and each of the nominees is like sitting in the seat and you sort of see like the little squares on the screen. So for me, like the idea that I might get to be like one of those squares on the screen is everything. Like it's literally like that is that whatever that shot is where there's like, you know, six boxes on the screen as everyone's waiting, that to me like is the dream. Like it's literally that moment is the dream. No matter what happens in that moment, to get to see those 6 squares on the box is like that little kid seeing her life sort of happening. The thing that she dreamed about sort of happening.
Well, I can't wait to see you in one of those little squares when the Tonys come around very soon. Elle Morgan, thank you so much for talking with me. It's a fantastic job in this show. Everyone who's out there, subscribe to Gold Derby. Stay with us for the rest of this Broadway season. Elle Morgan, thanks again.
Thank you.